The desert colony of Epsilon 9 slept under twin suns that burned the sand silver and gold. Inside a lonely metal building stood Ryan Cole, a human engineer in his early 30s. He was tired, dusty, and surrounded by the noise of broken machines. The air smelled of hot wires and oil. For months, Ryan had been alone, trying to keep the power station alive. Every day he sent the same message across the galactic job network. Wanted maintenance assistant. Food and shelter provided. No one came. Not until today. The door hissed open and a soft voice said, "Excuse me, sir. I came for the job." Ryan turned, expecting another human miner, maybe a tall mechanic. But standing in the doorway was a tiny alien girl, barely reaching his chest, with large glowing eyes and skin like pale lavender marble. She clutched a small metal case against her chest as if it were her heart. Ryan blinked, unsure what to say. You came for the job?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Mom's sick, so I came instead." The words hit him like a shock. Her tone was calm, but her eyes trembled with fear. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "This is a dangerous job, kid. Not for children." "I'm not a child," she said, voice firm. "I know how to repair coolant lines and service fusion cells. Please give me a chance." There was a short silence. Outside, wind carried dust across the windows. Inside, Ryan could hear the weak hum of the generators. He knew they wouldn't last another week. He sighed. "All right. Come in." The girl stepped inside carefully, her bare feet almost silent on the floor. Her name, she told him, was Lyra, from the small moon Evola. Her people rarely left their world. They were known to be quiet healers, not engineers. Ryan watched her unpack a small toolkit. The tools were old but organized like a soldier's weapons. He crossed his arms. "You really think you can handle this place?" She looked up with a faint smile. "Yes, sir. I have to." Ryan started the interview, though he still didn't believe any of this was real. He asked questions. Basic engineering, safety protocols, diagnostic codes. To his surprise, she answered all of them without hesitation, her voice steady, her small fingers tracing symbols in the air to explain how plasma cores worked. Her knowledge was impressive. Too impressive. Ryan leaned closer. "Where did you learn this?" "My mother taught me," Lyra said softly. "She used to work for the Galactic Authority before she got sick. Now she can't work or walk. We have no money for medicine." Ryan frowned. He'd heard of Authority workers getting radiation sickness from unshielded human tech. It was a cruel irony. Humans built the tools. "Aliens paid the price, so you came all the way here alone?" he asked. "Yes. I sold our transport for a ticket." Ryan exhaled slowly. The courage it must have taken for a young alien girl to cross the stars. It stirred something in him. He looked at the flickering light overhead and thought of the old saying, "Sometimes hope knocks softly." Maybe this was it. During the test session, a service drone malfunctioned. It spun wildly, throwing sparks, its blades cutting through cables. Ryan cursed and reached for the emergency switch, but before he could, Lyra darted forward. Her small hands moved like lightning. She slipped under the arm of the spinning drone and connected 2 wires using a piece of metal from her kit. The machine froze, then powered down gently. Ryan stared. "How did you do that?" She smiled shyly. "Your safety protocol was looping. It needed a ground." Ryan couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. "You just saved me 3 hours of work." For the first time in months, he felt a spark of excitement. Maybe this girl wasn't just brave, maybe she was brilliant. "Fine," he said, grinning. "You're hired. On trial basis." Lyra's eyes widened, shimmering like tiny stars. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret it." As evening fell, Ryan watched her from the control room window. She worked quietly, adjusting panels and humming a soft tune from her homeworld. The melody echoed gently against the metal walls, filling the lonely base with a strange warmth. He sat down with his coffee, staring at her file on the monitor. Something didn't add up. There was no record of her in the galactic database. No ID, no travel logs. He frowned. Maybe she used a false name. Maybe she was hiding from someone. But when he looked back through the window, she was smiling softly at a flickering generator, whispering to it like an old friend, and in that moment, Ryan decided not to ask questions. At least not yet. Outside, the suns dipped behind the dunes, painting the colony in deep crimson light. Inside, a human and a little alien girl began an unlikely partnership that neither fully understood. Ryan didn't know it yet, but the decision he made today would change more than his life. It would change the fate of two worlds. The next morning, the colony was quiet except for the low hum of the generators and the sound of metal being carefully adjusted. Ryan woke to find Lyra already at work. She was standing on a crate, her small hands covered in grease, her eyes focused on a broken power regulator that even he had failed to fix for weeks. Ryan leaned against the door frame, watching her in silence. She looked too fragile for this place. A thin figure in an oversized worker's jacket, her lavender skin glowing faintly under the workshop lights. Yet there was a calm strength in her every move, a quiet rhythm that made her seem older than her years. "You've been up since dawn?" Ryan asked. Lyra jumped slightly, then turned with a shy smile. The circuits kept flickering. "I thought maybe they were afraid of the dark." Ryan chuckled. "Machines don't get scared." "Maybe yours don't," she said softly. "But back home the machines listen. They just need kindness." Her words made Ryan pause. He had spent most of his life yelling at machines. Maybe that was why they never worked for him. He walked closer, pretending to check her work. "You know, I've met a lot of engineers. None of them talk to generators." Lyra giggled quietly. "That's why they break so often." Ryan couldn't help but grin. For the first time in months, the empty station didn't feel lonely. Later that day, a strange alert blinked across Ryan's console. Unauthorized biosignature detected. His heart skipped. The system was designed to scan for any unregistered life forms inside the perimeter. He looked over at Lyra, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor, rewiring a drone. "Hey, did you bring any pets from home?" She tilted her head. "Pets? The system's picking up something strange. Not human, not standard alien class." Lyra froze for a moment, her fingers tightening on the wires. Maybe it's a glitch," she said quickly. Ryan frowned but didn't press. He typed in a manual override and dismissed the alert. Still, unease settled in his chest. By evening, the air outside had turned cold, and the desert winds howled around the colony walls. Inside, Lyra helped him run a power test. Her precision impressed him. She worked faster than any human assistant he'd ever had. "You sure your mother taught you all this?" he asked, watching her solder a line perfectly straight. "Yes," Lyra said, eyes fixed on her task. She worked for the Galactic Authority once. She repaired engines for their fleet, but after an accident she got sick. Ryan's voice softened. "Accident?" "She touched human tech without proper shielding. The radiation got into her blood. Now she can't even stand. I need credits for the medicine. That's why I came here." Her words were calm, but her trembling hands betrayed her pain. Ryan looked away, pretending to check his console, though guilt pressed on his chest. He had seen this kind of sickness before. Human tech built cheaply, carelessly, with little thought for alien lives. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She gave a small nod. "You don't need to be. Not all humans are cruel." That line struck him harder than he expected. For a second, he saw himself reflected in her big silver eyes. Tired, alone, still trying to fix what was broken. As night fell, Lyra stayed in the workshop while Ryan went to reset the outer sensors. The stars above Epsilon 9 were cold and sharp, scattered like broken glass. When he returned, he saw her staring at the floor monitor, her expression pale. "What's wrong?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she pointed to the screen, a faint red dot blinking near the colony's edge. "Someone's here," she whispered. Ryan zoomed in, but the signal vanished instantly. "Could be a glitch. Happens all the time," he said, though his gut told him otherwise. Lyra hugged her toolkit tightly. "No, they found me." Ryan froze. "Who?" Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. "The ones who hurt my mother. The authority doesn't want the truth to spread. They'll come for me, and for anyone who helps me." Ryan stared at her in silence, feeling the weight of the storm that was about to break. Somewhere outside, in the endless sand, a drone's distant hum echoed in the dark. Too steady, too mechanical to be the wind. The girl looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, don't let them take me." Ryan glanced toward the shadows beyond the steel door and then at the trembling alien child beside him. He didn't know what was coming, but deep down he already knew his answer. The wind outside howled through the metal cracks of Epsilon 9. The air felt heavy, like the colony itself was holding its breath. Inside the small control room, Ryan sat by the dim glow of the monitor, his jaw tight, eyes locked on the security feed. The desert was empty, yet the sensors still showed movement in the dark. He looked over at Lyra. She sat on the floor with her toolkit beside her knees, hugging it tightly. Her silver eyes shimmered, but not from fear, from a deep sadness that Ryan could almost feel. "Lyra," he said quietly, "you need to tell me the truth. Who's after you?" For a moment she didn't move. Then she lifted her gaze and whispered, "The Galactic Authority." Ryan's heart skipped. The Authority? Why would they care about a little girl? Lyra's lips trembled. "Because my mother wasn't just a worker. She was one of their chief engineers." She took a deep breath, and she discovered something they didn't want anyone to know. Ryan leaned forward, his voice soft. "What did she find?" "The cure," Lyra said. "For the radiation sickness their machines caused." He froze. The same sickness that was killing thousands across alien worlds. And her mother had found a cure? If that's true, why wouldn't they use it? She looked down. Because it would mean admitting humans built the machines wrong. It would mean paying for the lives already lost. So they silenced her. Ryan's stomach tightened. He'd heard rumors before. Stories of human corporations covering up accidents, of colonies erased from the maps. But hearing it from this trembling alien child made it real. Lyra opened her metal case slowly. Inside were small glowing chips, blue and green, humming with faint energy. She pulled one out carefully, holding it between her palms. "This is her data core. It holds everything, her research, her voice, her proof. I have to protect it." Ryan stared at it. "You're carrying classified Authority tech?" "She gave it to me the night the soldiers came," Lyra said softly. "She told me to run. I've been hiding ever since." Ryan felt a strange mix of anger and admiration. This tiny alien girl had crossed half the galaxy alone, hunted, carrying a truth powerful enough to destroy a government. He rubbed his temples. "You shouldn't have come here." "If they track that signal to this colony—" "They already have," Lyra interrupted. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I saw their drone last night. It scanned the perimeter." Ryan pushed back from the desk, his chair screeching on the floor. He opened the armory panel on the wall, an old emergency locker. Inside lay 2 pulse rifles and a half-charged shield emitter. "If they're coming, we'll be ready." Lyra shook her head. "You can't fight them. They'll burn this place to the ground." Ryan loaded the rifle with a metallic click. "Maybe, but they'll have to go through me first." Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying fine dust that sparkled like static in the night. The colony lights flickered. Ryan moved to the main console, typing rapid commands. "Transmitters down," he muttered. "No outgoing signals. No way to call for help." Lyra walked to the window, staring into the endless dark. "When I left home, I thought humans were monsters," she said softly. "But now, I think some of you just forgot how to care." Ryan looked at her, so small, so brave. "Not all of us forgot," he said. She turned and smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the blue light of the monitors. "Then maybe there's still hope." A sudden beep echoed through the control room. Ryan looked at the scanner. 5 unidentified life signs approaching fast. His stomach dropped. "They're here." Lyra clutched the data core to her chest. "They'll take it. They'll destroy it." "Not if I can help it," Ryan said, grabbing his rifle. But as he stepped toward the door, Lyra grabbed his sleeve. "There's something you need to know," she said quickly. "The data, it's not just the cure. It's also a message. My mother said it's proof that humans and my people were meant to work together, that our DNA is connected somehow. She believed we're part of the same creation." Ryan froze, heart pounding. If that were true, it would change everything, the politics, the war, the hatred. He looked at her. "Then we protect it." "Whatever it takes," Lyra nodded. The faint hum of the generators mixed with the rising sound of engines outside. The horizon glowed red as dust lifted under approaching ships. Ryan steadied his rifle, eyes hard. "Stay close, kid. It's going to be a long night." The night over Epsilon 9 turned blood red. Wind roared across the desert, carrying dust that shimmered like fire under the colony's warning lights. Ryan stood by the steel door, pulse rifle in hand, watching the sensors spike with motion. 5 signals, getting closer. Inside the control room, Lyra held her metal case against her chest. Her small hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "They found us," she whispered. Ryan didn't answer. His jaw tightened as he switched the colony defenses to manual mode. Old turrets came to life outside, their rusty arms humming weakly. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Get behind the console," he told her.
"Stay low."
"Don't move unless I say." Lyra nodded and crawled behind the metal desk. The air inside the station felt thick with static. Every flicker of the lights made her flinch. Then came the first sound, a low mechanical thud. The outer door. Ryan raised his rifle. "They're breaching." The next moment, the door exploded inward with a flash of white light and a burst of sand. Smoke filled the hallway as shadows poured through. Tall figures in dark armor, faces hidden behind mirrored helmets. Their weapons glowed blue, humming with lethal energy. "Step away from the alien," a metallic voice commanded. "You are harboring a fugitive and stolen property of the Galactic Authority." Ryan took a slow step forward, his rifle aimed steady. "She's a child. She's not stolen anything." The lead soldier tilted his head. "You don't understand, human. That creature carries data that doesn't belong to her species or yours." "Stand down." Ryan didn't move. "Then come and take it." For a brief heartbeat, silence. Then, gunfire. Blue plasma bolts tore through the air, striking the walls. Sparks rained from the ceiling as Ryan dove behind a console. He fired back, his shots echoing across the steel corridor. Lyra covered her ears, heart pounding, the sound of each blast shaking her chest. She peeked up once and saw Ryan, his face lit by the glow of his rifle, eyes burning with determination. He wasn't fighting like a man defending a stranger. He was fighting like someone protecting his own. Outside, the colony's turrets came alive. They spun and fired bursts of plasma into the darkness, hitting two of the armored soldiers. One fell, sparks flying. The others retreated behind cover, shouting commands. Ryan reloaded. "Lyra, we have to move." She crawled toward him, clutching the data core. "Where?" He pointed toward the maintenance tunnel. "Back exit, leads to the ridge." "Go," she hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll hold them off," her eyes filled with tears. "You'll die." Ryan gave a small grin. "Not tonight." He turned and fired again, buying her time. Lyra sprinted for the tunnel, her small figure vanishing into the shadows. The soldiers regrouped. "The target is escaping," one shouted. The leader snarled. "Forget the human. Get the girl." Ryan heard them coming. He ducked behind a support pillar, switched his rifle to overload mode, and waited. As soon as the first soldier passed, Ryan tackled him, smashing the rifle butt against his helmet. Sparks burst and the soldier collapsed. The others fired wildly. Ryan rolled, the floor searing under plasma heat. He hit the emergency vent switch on the wall. Hot steam erupted from the pipes, filling the hall with blinding fog. Through the chaos, he ran toward the tunnel entrance. Lyra was halfway through the shaft, panting, dragging her toolkit behind her. "Come on," she shouted, reaching back for him. Ryan crawled in after her just as a bolt of plasma scorched the tunnel wall behind him. The heat burned across his shoulder, but he kept moving. They crawled until the light of the colony faded behind them, and only the cold stars guided their way. When they finally emerged onto the ridge, the desert stretched out endlessly, glowing under two moons. Ryan collapsed beside her, gasping. "You okay?" Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, I think so." Below them, Epsilon 9 burned. Flames rose where the soldiers had stormed in. Ryan watched the smoke rise into the sky and clenched his fist. "They'll keep coming," he said quietly. Lyra looked up at him. "Then we keep running." He turned to her. The wind whipped her silver hair across her face. Despite the fear, she looked calm, almost brave. Ryan stood, reloading his rifle. "We'll head east. There's an old comms tower beyond the dunes. Maybe we can send your mother's data off-world." Lyra looked at the burning colony one last time, then whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" Ryan asked. "For believing me," she said. "No one ever did before." He smiled faintly. "Guess I'm not everyone." As they disappeared into the desert night, the sky behind them glowed brighter. Authority ships descending from orbit, hunting for what they'd lost. But far ahead across the dunes, a single light blinked from the old tower, a signal of hope waiting in the darkness. And for the first time in years, Ryan felt something stronger than fear. He felt purpose. The twin moons hung low over the dunes as Ryan and Lyra trudged through the desert night. The sand crunched under their boots and feet, each step heavier than the last. The wind carried the faint hum of engines behind them. The authority troops were still searching. Ryan's shoulder burned where the plasma blast had grazed him, but he didn't slow down. He couldn't. Lyra walked beside him, clutching the metal case close to her chest like it was part of her heart. "How far is the comms tower?" she asked softly. "Another few miles," Ryan said through gritted teeth. "If we're lucky, the antenna still works." The night was quiet for a moment, except for the sound of wind sweeping over the dunes. Then Lyra's voice broke the silence. "You didn't have to fight for me, you know." Ryan glanced at her. "Didn't I? You could have handed me over. They would have let you live," he gave a dry laugh. "I've lived enough without doing the right thing." Lyra looked down at the sand, unsure what to say. The man who had once seemed cold and distant now walked ahead of her like a shield. Every step he took kicked up dust that sparkled under moonlight, a reminder that even in darkness, something could still shine. As dawn approached, they reached the comms tower, a rusted metal skeleton leaning against the wind. It stood over a small crater, surrounded by debris and silent cables. Ryan climbed the ladder carefully, pain shooting through his arm. "Stay below," he called. "I'll see if the transmitter's still got power." Lyra nodded, setting her toolkit down. She looked around nervously. The desert felt too quiet, too still. At the top, Ryan tried to activate the control box. Sparks jumped and the screen flickered faintly. He smiled. "Still alive," he murmured. Then he heard it, a deep mechanical roar from behind the ridge. He froze. Through the rising sun's glare, he saw them. 3 black hovercrafts cutting through the desert air, heading straight toward the tower. "Lyra!" he shouted. "They found us!" Lyra looked up, fear in her eyes. "What do we do?" Ryan climbed down fast, landing beside her. "We fight smart. Get into the tower base. There's an old maintenance pit." "Stay low, but you do as I say." Lyra ran toward the pit, sliding down the sandy ramp. Ryan turned, raising his rifle just as the first hovercraft opened fire. Plasma bolts ripped through the sand, exploding around him. The tower shook with every blast he fired back, short controlled bursts hitting the lead craft's side. It spun out, smoke trailing as it crashed into a dune. The other 2 didn't stop. Soldiers jumped out, armored and armed, moving in formation. Ryan ducked behind a broken panel, firing again. The air shimmered with heat and dust. Sparks flew as bullets and plasma lit up the dawn sky. He was outnumbered, but not out of fight. Down in the pit, Lyra crouched beside an old power junction. Her small fingers worked fast, pulling wires, connecting fuses. Come on," she whispered. Above, Ryan's rifle clicked empty. He threw it aside, grabbed a wrench from the sand and charged forward, slamming it into a soldier's helmet. Sparks burst. Another soldier fired, hitting the tower wall inches from Ryan's head. Then, a sudden hum. A rising whine of energy. Ryan turned just as a surge of blue light exploded from the tower's base. The antenna flickered back to life, electricity running through its veins like lightning reborn. The energy pulse spread outward, knocking the soldiers off balance. Lyra stood at the edge of the pit, her hands glowing faintly with static. She had rerouted the tower's dormant defense grid. "Now," she shouted. Ryan understood instantly. He hit the control lever beside him, sending another surge through the sand. The shockwave hit the nearest hovercraft. It burst in flames, tumbling down in a spiral of smoke and fire. The last surviving soldier stumbled, trying to aim. Ryan grabbed the man's rifle and swung hard, knocking him out cold. Silence fell again, broken only by the crackle of burning wreckage. Ryan leaned against the tower, breathing hard. His armor was scorched, his arm bleeding, but they had survived. Lyra climbed out of the pit, her face smudged with dust and oil. "Did we win?" she asked quietly. Ryan smiled faintly. "For now." She handed him the small data core. "It's safe. The tower's transmitter should be able to send it. We can share my mother's cure." Ryan looked at the rising sun, its light spilling over the dunes, painting them gold. "Then let's finish what we started." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, kid," Lyra smiled shyly. "You too, human." For a brief moment, both stood in silence, watching the desert breathe again. The wind no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like freedom. The morning sun climbed slowly above the dunes, turning the desert into a sea of gold. Smoke from the destroyed hovercrafts curled lazily into the sky. The wind was soft now, almost gentle, as if the planet itself was giving them a moment of peace. Ryan and Lyra sat at the base of the comms tower, surrounded by silence and sand. Ryan's shoulder was bandaged with part of his torn sleeve, his face streaked with dust. Lyra sat beside him, holding the small metal case, the one that had caused all this chaos. She looked down at it, then at Ryan. "If we send this data," she said softly, "they'll know exactly where we are." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, but if we don't, your mother's cure dies with it." Lyra hesitated. The metal box glowed faintly under the sunlight. Inside, it wasn't just numbers or files. It was her mother's voice, her memory, her truth. She had carried it across galaxies, running from soldiers, hiding in cargo ships, surviving alone. And now she was so close to finishing what her mother had started. Ryan reached over and gently touched the box. "Let's hear it first," he said. "Maybe there's something we need to know before we send it." Lyra pressed a small button. The air shimmered with blue light and a holographic figure appeared, the image of a woman with kind eyes and the same lavender skin as Lyra. Her voice was soft, melodic and warm like sunlight breaking through clouds. "If you're hearing this," the woman said, "then my work has reached the edge of space. My name is Dr. Soraya Vivola, and I was once proud to serve the Galactic Authority, until I saw the truth." Ryan and Lyra exchanged a glance. "The radiation that poisons our worlds is not a natural accident. It's the result of human design, careless, unchecked. But it can be cured. I found the sequence that neutralizes the decay in alien DNA. I begged them to use it. They refused. They said it was too expensive to fix mistakes already made." Her voice cracked slightly. "If this message survives, let it be known. Our species are not enemies. The difference between us is smaller than the light between atoms. We share the same origin, the same breath of creation. The universe made us to help each other, not to destroy each other." Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. The woman's words hit deeper than any bullet ever could. "To whoever finds this message," Sarai continued, "protect my daughter Lyra. She carries the last copy of my cure. If she lives, hope lives." The hologram flickered, the voice fading into static. Then for one last moment, Sarai smiled. "And to my little one, don't be afraid of the stars. You were born to shine among them." The light vanished. Lyra sat frozen, tears streaming silently down her face. Ryan looked away, pretending to check the transmitter controls, but his throat was tight. He'd seen death, war, betrayal, but nothing like this. A mother leaving her final words for a child she'd never see again. Lyra wiped her eyes and looked up at him. "She trusted me," she whispered. "I can't fail her now." Ryan nodded firmly. "Then we won't." He stood and walked to the transmitter panel. The screen flickered alive as he powered it up. "Signal's weak, but I can boost it using the tower's core. Once we send this, every system in the outer colonies could receive it." Lyra moved beside him. "But once they trace it, they'll come for us," Ryan said, finishing her sentence. "I know." He looked at her and smiled faintly. "Guess we make it count." Together they inserted the data core into the panel. The holographic code spiraled across the screen like a galaxy of blue light. The machine hummed as it began transmitting. A warning flashed. "Transmission detected. Location compromised." Ryan exhaled slowly. "There it is." Lyra grabbed his hand. "Thank you. For what?" "For not running away." Ryan squeezed her hand gently. "Did that enough in my life." The tower's beacon glowed brighter and brighter until it pierced the morning sky, a pillar of blue light reaching toward the stars. Somewhere out there, across hundreds of worlds, the message was being received. Scientists, miners, refugees, all of them would hear Dr. Sarai's words. The truth was finally free, but far above in the upper atmosphere, new shadows moved, authority ships changing course, descending fast. Ryan looked up, the reflection of burning engines glowing in his eyes. "They're coming." Lyra didn't look scared this time. She stood tall beside him, wind tugging at her silver hair. "Then we've already won," she said softly. The two of them stood side by side as the desert wind roared again, the tower shining like a torch of truth against the sky. The desert wind screamed like a warning. Above the horizon, dark shapes broke through the pale morning sky. Galactic authority ships, sleek and cold, descending like iron hawks. The message had been sent. The truth was free. But now the hunters were coming. Ryan stood at the base of the comms tower, rifle in hand, the wound on his shoulder still burning. The transmitter behind him glowed a steady blue, sending Dr. Sarai's final words across the stars. Lyra stood beside him, clutching the empty metal case. Her silver eyes reflected the approaching ships. "They're faster than I thought," Ryan muttered. Lyra's voice was calm. "They'll try to destroy the tower. If they do, the message stops transmitting. Then we stop them first," Ryan said, tightening his grip on the weapon. The first transport ship landed a few hundred meters away, kicking up waves of sand. Troops spilled out, forming a semicircle. Their leader raised a loudspeaker. "Ryan Cole," the metallic voice echoed. "You have committed treason against the Galactic Authority. Step away from the alien and surrender immediately." Ryan smirked. "Guess I finally made the wanted list." Lyra looked up at him, her face pale but brave. "You don't have to fight them. You've already done enough." Ryan glanced at her and smiled faintly. "I'm not fighting for you anymore, kid. I'm fighting with you." The soldiers advanced, blaster rifles pointed, boots sinking into the sand. Ryan fired first, short bursts that lit the air blue. The soldiers scattered, returning fire. Plasma bolts hit the tower's frame, sending sparks flying. "Keep the tower stable," Ryan shouted. Lyra ran toward the control panel. Her hands flew across the keys, rerouting power. The tower flickered, then steadied, humming like a heartbeat. One of the soldiers broke through the smoke, charging straight at Ryan. Ryan met him head-on, knocking him down with the butt of his rifle. He kicked the weapon away and dove for cover as another shot cracked past his head. "Status?" he called. "Transmission still going," Lyra yelled. "But the core's overheating. I can't cool it manually." Ryan ducked behind a half-buried panel, breathing hard. His eyes darted to the horizon. The ships were circling now, preparing for a bombing run. They weren't going to capture them. They were going to erase them. He looked at Lyra, who was still typing, sweat glistening on her lavender skin. She didn't stop, didn't flinch. She was her mother's daughter. Ryan crawled toward her through the smoke. "If I reroute the main capacitor, I can overcharge the core," he said. "It'll fry the tower, but boost the signal long enough to reach every system in the galaxy." Lyra's eyes widened. "That'll kill you." Ryan smiled sadly. "Maybe. But if this message reaches the right people, you won't need me." Tears filled her eyes. "You're not allowed to die. Humans are supposed to be stronger than that." He chuckled softly. "We're not strong because we don't die, kid. We're strong because we choose what to die for." Before she could argue, he turned and sprinted toward the base of the tower. Sparks rained down from above as the core began to overload. The humming grew louder, like thunder trapped in metal. Lyra chased after him, shouting, "Ryan, stop!" He turned one last time, smiling through the dust and fire. "Tell your mother she was right." Then he slammed the override switch. A blinding wave of blue light exploded from the tower, shooting into the sky like a pillar of fire. The energy pulse tore through the Authority ships overhead, shorting out their systems. One by one they fell from the sky, crashing into the dunes in clouds of smoke. The light spread farther, reaching beyond the planet, beyond the stars, carrying Dr. Sarai's message of truth, of unity, to every listening ear in the galaxy. When the explosion faded, silence returned. The tower was gone. Only its shattered base remained, glowing faintly. Lyra crawled from the dust, coughing, her eyes scanning the wreckage. "Ryan!" she cried. "Ryan, where are you?" For a long time there was no answer. Then through the haze she saw movement, a figure emerging from the smoke, limping but alive. Ryan. His armor was scorched, his face blackened with soot, but he was smiling. "Guess humans are hard to kill after all," he said weakly. Lyra ran to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. She hugged him tightly, careful of his wound. "You did it." The whole galaxy heard her. Ryan looked at the rising sun, the twin lights glowing over the horizon. "No," he said softly. "We did it." Days later, news spread across the stars. Alien worlds demanding peace. Human scientists publishing Sarai's cure. People marching together under one banner. On a quiet ridge above the desert, Ryan and Lyra built a small marker from stone and metal. "For her," Ryan said. Lyra nodded. "For everyone she saved." They stood side by side as the wind carried their shadows across the sand. Somewhere far above, the signal still traveled, a message written in light, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the universe, compassion could still burn brighter than war. Ryan looked down at the little alien girl beside him, smiling through the sunrise. Maybe the universe isn't so cold after all, he said. Lyra smiled back. Maybe it just needed a human heart to warm it. The suns rose higher, painting the world gold. And together they walked toward the horizon, two souls from different stars united by hope.